We're not going to say Saturday's game is must win, but I think it's fair to say it's imperative that we're victorious. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. It's a strange mood going into this one, Seb. Evening to you, my friend. You've seen, as a lot of our listeners or watchers have, Ipswich Town lose the last two games 10-1 on aggregate. We could have had better run into this one, but frankly, we can ignore the past now, can't we? And look forward and positivity, no?
Very much so. Let's move on. Park the last two results. Last Saturday at Anfield was better than City at home, and we only conceded 4 instead of 6, and we got a last-minute goal involving a new signing, so that's always positive. So that's done. It's in the past. Move on, and all eyes now turn to Saturday for must win, imperative, must be victorious. Insert cliche here. It's the biggest game of the season so far, isn't it? Let's not beat around the bush. Those two were free hits in the last 2 weeks. They're over with. This is where the real business starts.
This is a real quiz. Yeah, I didn't want to use the MW phrase. You've used it. I will stick with my imperative that we're victorious, which we coined last season, didn't we? Evening to everyone in the chat. Let us know you're there. Let's have a look. Stevie here predicting 3 points. Have to think positive to manifest a good result. We've tried that, Stevie, all season here on the pre-match show. Not really worked out. So maybe changing of strategy. I wore a shirt last week. Not wearing a Town shirt this week. I've put the background back up. I put Prince up there. Thank you to Call Me Ted. Sorted me out. And there he is. Hopefully a positive omen too. But Tim's mood is fair, isn't it, Seb? Evening all. I must confess to being nervous about Saturday. It's always nervy when there's a lot on the line, but you can understand people's moods, can't you? A little bit of trepidation.
I feel the same way. I'm going to sit here shortly and give you an absolute ton of statistics about, like last week, Liverpool were top of all the metrics. This week, Southampton are pretty much bottom of all the metrics. And, if we were in the Championship and this was Rotherham, or I can't remember who finished bottom last year, whoever it was, coming to Town, we'd feel so much confident. It just feels different, doesn't it? Because it's Premier League and we've had no easy games this season, and therefore maybe the mindset amongst the fan base has changed ever so slightly. And it is huge. It means an awful lot. This is on paper, I have to remind you every now and again that football isn't played on paper. But this is probably our easiest game of the season that's left, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's the bottom side who's not doing very well at our ground, and therefore, in theory, we should be relatively confident about this one. But I've just got this nagging doubt in the back of my mind. But we will give you the stats as always, and we will try and give you as much information as possible for you to make your own informed decision. And all decisions are correct. You can be nervous, you can be confident. That's the beauty of being a football fan.
Yeah, maybe your mood will shift after we've talked you through it. Evening to Michael, our mate down in Brisbane. In caps, I'm not going to make any predictions about this week's game. Michael, I see you. I appreciate you. Apologies for making a little bit of a mountain out of a molehill with your prediction last weekend. But I totally concur with that mindset. We need to move the dial, change the conversation, don't we? Evening to Matt. Now a resident up in Scotland. He's moved up and crossed the border. Hope everything's going well there, Matt. This team has given us so many incredible moments over the past few years. He says that we'll remember forever. It's now time for us fans to give them everything we've got. Let's do this together. Tommy Lee, there's some manifesting NC. So 90+7. Anyone? How many times are we going to mention Jeremy Sarmiento tonight, Seb? I've got the first mention in there. How many more do we want?
Can we just talk about him for the next hour? Let's just eulogize over the goal and that moment for the next, what are we on? Next 56 minutes, and we'll call it a night.
Yeah, we'll come back to that later. Let's not spoil the script, shall we? But yeah, great to see so many of you with us tonight. And as AD says, come on, Seb, give us all some confidence. Let's get the transfer stuff out of the way, something I bloody hate. Can't wait for Tuesday morning when it will all be done and dusted. That being said, if there is whispers, if our spidey senses are tingling around action in the transfer market towards deadline day, then I suspect Craig and Joe, out of anyone in our pod team, will be dispatched to discuss it. But We talked about George Edmondson last week, and another of the class of 24, Seb, is out of the door temporarily, and we wish him well.
Yeah, loan for Harry Clark. He's gone to Sheffield United. I think the rumours broke in midweek that he'd be going to Sheffield. It was Sheffield Wednesday that were originally kind of linked with him, but it seems like their rivals of some politics has gone on there. Some Housery's gone on there. They've stolen a march and they've got him in, and he's reunited with big Kiefer Moore there to try and get his third promotion in 3 years. What a record that would be for him. We know he loves the promotion celebration, so hopefully you'll see him wandering the streets of Sheffield at 4 a.m. at some point in May, like we've seen the last couple of years. Makes sense for him to go out. He's way behind the pecking order with Twanzebe back to full fitness, Ben Godfrey joining, and Ben Johnson probably in front of him. So a loan deal. Obviously, he can come back in the summer, but he can go and play some football for a few months and hopefully get another promotion on his belt and can be reassessed in the summer depending on what league we're on. He's a strange one, Clark, because I think it's you that said in the past that he's probably got the physicality for the Premier League. He's relatively quick, he's athletic, but maybe, I don't know, maybe just a difficult kind of step up for him tactically, maybe from a tactical point of view. So a chance for him to go and play and be reassessed again in the summer, I would suggest.
Yeah, good luck, Harry Clark. Yeah, he's just been at the wrong place at the wrong time in certain matches. I think all of us remember Brentford, and what a really unfortunate sequence of events that game was, and not deliberate, just really unfortunate situations there. And similar to Jack Clark, when he's had those moments to get into the team, it's just not worked out for him. So hopefully some confidence to be built out on loan with Sheffield United. His promotion working for Chris Wilder might be good for that too. So all the best, Harry. There are some other chatter out there, but I've been we've got a no. I'm not going to even say the words. Seb has encouraged me to move away from stuff that may or may not be happening elsewhere. So the guys on Monday will talk about anything in definitive terms. We are not going to speculate or wish anyone else away or speculate on that kind of stuff. So moving on, I hope I've sidestepped that sufficiently well for you, Seb. ITFC women on the road again after the Gwalia debacle. I'm going to say it if no one else is. Match abandoned again for the second time. This time they played a half and Town were 2-0 up, courtesy of Sophie Peskett. So very frustrating. Now games and points behind, but so many in hand to try and catch up with hashtag and overtake them, starting with Watford this weekend. I shall be there away. They play at Wealdstone. Tickets available on Watford's website if you can figure out how to sign up. Not particularly user intuitive. But yeah, I think they lost to Lewis last time out, and Town will be chomping at the bit to get back into match action properly. Hopefully no weather situation for them to worry about on the weekend. And get points back on the board. And
when's the hashtag game? Is it in March? It's on the horizon, isn't it?
I should know. They've moved it around a few times.
Okay.
I think it might be
March. Soon though, isn't it? It's in the next 6 weeks or so, isn't it? I think
so. And also something that we're talking about in the next 6 weeks is another game at Portman Road. So I'm sure we'll be speaking to personnel from ITFC in ahead of that one. But yeah, the hashtag game is coming up. And if someone in the chat wants to help me out there, feel free. But otherwise, we are going to talk Southampton. We put it off for 8 minutes. We've tiptoed around it. We've alluded to it. But we're going to have to jump in. And I guess probably the context, Seb, that if anyone's feeling a little bit nervous about Saturday, is that if you're an Ipswich Town fan, it could be worse. You could be a Southampton fan as things stand if you look at the league table. Not gone well, has it? And maybe a surprise, Seb, given they've been in the Premier League more recently than we have, that they now find themselves where they are. But managerial stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we sat here for the pre-match show back in, was it September, August, like whenever the Morsey equaliser was, and we kind of bemoaned their lack of progressive transfers. We kind of said they spent a load of money to stand still. They triggered an option to keep Harwood Bellis. They spent on Flynn Downs. They bought Ryan Fraser back. And we kind of said that they're going into the Premier League with the same defence they had in the Championship. And they conceded an awful lot of goals last year in the Championship. So it was a strange kind of strategy at the start of the campaign. Russell Martin, love him or loathe him, was never going to change his
philosophy. We're going to talk about him in a bit, don't worry.
We will do, yeah. He was never going to change his philosophy, and it's become a disastrous season for them. Let's be honest, they're bottom of the league. In reality, all they have left to play for is to beat Derby's record. Derby currently hold the record for the lowest Premier League points tally. They got 11 in 2007, 2008. I think Paul Jewell was in charge for half that season, wasn't he? So that's their aim now. They're currently tracking for 10.4 points. So it's not a foregone conclusion they will do it. They've made a managerial change, as everyone around us at the bottom of the league has done. It's made no difference whatsoever, and they are bottom with 6 points, and yeah, a horrific season for them. We are 10 points ahead of them. You know, we're saying that we've struggled at times. Imagine being a Southampton fan and having one victory all season. Played 23 games. The one win was against Everton back in October, I think it was. Drawn 3, lost 19, scored 16 goals this season, conceded 53. No surprises. Like last week, Liverpool were top of most metrics. Southampton are bottom for goals scored, and they've conceded the most in the league. They've got one draw in the last 10, which was against Fulham. Everything else is a defeat. Their last 5 we always talk about is 5 straight league defeats: Newcastle, Forest, Man United, Brentford, and Palace. So if you're still feeling nervous, there are some stats to make you feel better. And they'll make you feel even better again, because their away form is horrendous as well. They haven't won a game away from home. They are bottom with 2 points. They got draws against Fulham and Brighton, and everything else has been a defeat. So yeah, they come to Portman Road, the worst team by a mile in the Premier League, one of the worst teams in Premier League history, and their away record is shocking. So everybody can cheer up now, because it should be very, very straightforward on Saturday.
This is when I say, so you're telling me there's a chance?
We can't say that this week. Come on. All the weeks we do it for Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool. We can't be saying that this week. And this is our biggest game of the season, right? So far, obviously, you know, this is our best chance to get 3 points. And I think it's going to be a nervous afternoon at Portman Road. But I guess what's crucial is that...
What are you doing?
What?
You just made everyone calm, and now you're saying it's going to be a nervous afternoon. So
no, but if you hadn't rudely interrupted me, Richard, I was going to say it's important, obviously, as the crowd, you know, we don't let that nerves come through to the pitch. Let's make it a cauldron from the off. Let's make sure it's a Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff. These things are rare, so let's enjoy ourselves. Let's all get nicely oiled up at the Greyhound, whatever your pre-match choice, pre-match pub of choice is, and let's make it loud and raucous and intimidating for Southampton. And hopefully they will fold, because they are rubbish.
Just to confirm anyone, that wasn't written in the script, the getting oiled up and all that kind of stuff. But to flip it round, Seb, if I'm a Southampton fan who's happened to stumble across the Blue Monday podcast, I guess I would argue that we see this as the biggest chance to get 3 points. Of course, it is on paper and league table and every stat that you want to chuck at it. But simply, they'll be feeling it's a moment, an opportunity for them too. So I guess that's what makes it nicely poised. We won't dwell too much on that, but we have to give respect to Southampton. That's why we're going to talk about them as objectively as we can. But they will be thinking a lot of the same things that we are about them too. So I guess we can't ignore that. Do you want to talk about the Newcastle game last time out, Seb? It's kind of the results of late, yes, defeats under the new manager we'll talk about, a kind of a sense that maybe they're not as fragile and defensively lax as they were under Russell Martin, but still unable to turn those defeats into draws or draws. Well, there's no draws, is there? Those defeats into draws.
They have changed things. We'll discuss what's changed between Juric, the new manager coming in just after Boxing Day, I think it was, and Russell Martin leaving, how he's kind of changed things around. But last time out was a 3-1 defeat last weekend at home to Newcastle. They're 1-0 up through Jan Bednarak, centre-half, but then a double from Alexander Isak and Sandro Tonali being given the freedom of St Mary's to march to the middle of the pitch to score the third. 53% possession. They won the possession match, so Russell Martin will be looking on proudly. 12 shots to 17 and an XG of 0.76 to 2.93. So, you know, Newcastle did. It sounds like it was a pretty routine Newcastle victory. I've just mentioned there about the boss. So they have changed manager. Ivan Juric replaced Russell Martin in December. Only signed an 18-month deal, which probably wouldn't have given you the best of confidence, the biggest vote from the board that you were the new man to kind of, you know, either see yourself up or mount a promotion kind of comeback. He did beat Swansea 3-0 in the FA Cup third round weekend a couple of weeks ago. This is his first first managerial role outside of Italy. He left Roma. He was in charge at Roma for 12 games between September and November after replacing the club legend Daniel De Rossi. He's kind of known for high pressing, defensively solid football, a 34% win percentage across 360 odd games. Just struck me as a bit of a strange appointment. He has got a bit of form in Italy for taking over struggling sides with very limited resources and getting them across the line, but he's pretty much effected no change whatsoever. Now, you could argue the damage was already done. At the time he takes over, they're 19, 18 games, whatever it is, into a season that's gone horribly wrong, so that the morale amongst the squad must be kind of rock bottom. So you could argue that perhaps he's not been dealt the best hand to play with. But I don't know, an 18-month contract for a manager with no experience in either this league or the Championship, I'm not sure that he's necessarily the man to bring them back. And I guess if they lose to us and then they've got Bournemouth, I think, next week, that would mean he's lost 8 out of 8 games. And surely at that point, we could be looking at the first side to have 3 managers this season. Do you think I'm being a bit harsh there, or do you think that's on the cards?
It's difficult to call it, isn't it? I just put that comment up from Uber ITFC. Even Juric is a caretaker, he says, not formally or legally or officially, anything like that, but perception-wise, I think it's not. It's kind of where you're at, isn't it? He says end of season they'll go for Danny Roll or someone like that. No one wants the job at kind of a long-term basis now. It is a strange one, isn't it? And maybe Russell Martin was the outlier with their managerial appointments, but we'll talk about the style of play and what he's tried to instill. But I mean, it was such a thankless task, wasn't it? And if you're the players, you need a psychologist probably more than a tactician at this stage. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if. I mean,
but at some point they have to plan for next year, don't they? At some point they're going to say, right, this year. I mean, let's be honest, it pretty much is the fan base. Any Southampton fans that are watching, I don't think they disagree with me to say that we are relegated this season. And at some point, surely you could use this 6-month period, this 4-month period, to plan for next year properly.
Who are you going to get though, Seb?
But you're still an attractive,
because you're not going to get Danny Roll from Sheffield Wednesday now. He's not going to want to come in and the first thing on his Southampton CV is a relegation. So it makes me feel like it's Juric's job till the end of the season, purely because I don't think if you want to make that progressive appointment, I suspect that kind of manager is not twiddling their thumbs at the moment, are they? So you're poaching someone from another club, and let's be honest, I don't think anyone wants that gig right now. In the summer, when you're
fresh start, they're not tarnished with the back end of this season. Yeah, maybe. Okay.
I mean, maybe there's someone they can bring in that might elicit a different response from the players, because I think that, to me, is the biggest tell, is that the players don't appear to have changed a huge amount of their attitude to matches, etc. I mean, tactically, should we talk about Russell Martin now? Because I remember hearing Southampton fans, even last season, really concerned at the style of play of Russell Martin, and it kind of feels like the results bailed him out there. Is there a world where Russell Martin is a little bit more pragmatic and has still got the job, and Southampton are kind of ticking around where Leicester, Wolves and we are? Or do you think this was always going to play out that way? Because I think some Southampton fans probably did. Did he need saving from himself?
Perhaps, yeah, potentially. I mean, he was never going to adapt, was he? There were comparisons with Vincent Kompany at Burnley last season, and that refusal to adjust the playing style. We've seen McKenna several times, in game, he'll change things and we'll notice tactical tweaks week on week, whereas Russell Martin was very much, we will pass out from the back, we will have 60% possession, we will make 650 passes per game, second to only Man City. And we saw on multiple occasions, even last year they had that dodgy run when we beat them. They lost to, was it Sunderland or Leicester 5 the week before us maybe? And a lot of those were caused from the playing out from the back style, where clearly the players weren't overly comfortable with it. So to go up a level, I discussed at the start of this, their lack of kind of transfer activity, to expect the same kind of things from the players a level up when you've got the likes of Mo Salah and Erling Haaland pressing you rather than, Championship players. Surely that was always going to end only one way. And I think maybe he lasted longer than I probably thought he would. He went after the 5-0 Spurs defeat. Was it just before Christmas, or maybe a couple of weeks before Christmas? And I potentially thought he might be kind of getting the boot round about the kind of November period. But he stuck in there for a little bit longer. And yeah, I just think the way Russell Martin is, he was never going to change. It was going to be his way or the highway, and that's kind of the hill he's made for himself. And he might well have looked at the likes of Vincent Kompany, and that's completely different because of the stature of Vincent Kompany. But he might think to himself, if I can, instill a way of playing, and I can blame the lack of quality of players rather than my managerial tactics, that might stand me in good stead for jobs higher up the food chain, which is probably what I would suggest a bit of self-preservation kind of came in towards the end.
We've talked about Southampton too much. Let's try to merge in some ITFC chat whilst we're at it. We are an Ipswich Town podcast after all. The record, Seb, again, if we're looking for positivity, there is some more stuff you can tell us about.
Yeah, 27 wins for Ipswich, 21 draws between the two, and 23 Southampton wins. Push you towards the excellent Blue Monday Rewind with Craig and Dave. They discussed the 3-1 defeat in March 2002, and they focus on the Chris Marsden goal. I've written in the script, I remember him becoming prime Lionel Messi, but if you watch that show or listen to it, it sounds like Craig is saying he just basically runs in a straight line. But that was years ago. Yeah, we're not going to discuss that. The year before was the 3-1 victory. Alan Armstrong scored twice. One might have been an own goal, but he definitely got one. I think that was his full home debut as well. And of course, we doubled them last season. There was the 1-0 win away from home when, was it Hutchinson's first goal of the season, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And then there was April the 1st, 2024, a game that will go down in absolute kind of history. We've both got the pictures behind us on the wall. We never spoke about it because we went to Vegas the next day. We were chanting the Sarmiento chant for most of our week in Vegas. So everyone in the chat wants to hear it. Give me your recollections of that moment inside Portman Road in the 97th minute where Sam Morsey pings the ball over to Leif Davis. Go.
I can't remember. All I remember is hugging everyone around me and going absolutely mental. And I'm pretty certain someone came and had a conversation with me about the goal and stuff. It's like, I just let me celebrate. I just want to go crazy. I'm not sure I've cheered for a goal as like loudly or as like I was proper horse after that one. And it was more the kind of the atmosphere in the ground afterwards as well, because it just felt like, because there were some late scenes throughout that season, wasn't there? And, Bristol City, Rotherham kind of jump out. But in the context of the game, the opposition, and that put us top, I think, temporarily as well. I think that's the biggest moment so far I've been involved in as a member of the crowd at Portman Road. Let us know what your thoughts are in the chat as well about this one, because I can't remember. I mean, I'm North Stand End. I cannot tell you what I was thinking when he kind of missed the first one and then toe poked it in, apart from the ball was coming directly towards me and I could see that it was going in. But other than that, I just don't remember anything apart from pandemonium. You there and then drove back up north to come back?
I lent my ticket to Mullet so he could experience it. I was watching it on Sky, and obviously the Leif Davis opener, and then I thought, most people will agree with me. I thought Southampton were really good for like an hour or so, and then we get the really clever equaliser from Broadhead where Taylor plays it in first time, and he kind of used the Southampton player as a bit of a shield to deceive the keeper. Then the red card, and you're kind of thinking 2-2 is a decent result because we'd beaten Blackburn on Good Friday. I think we were the only team in the top three to win on Good Friday. We were the 5:30 game on Easter Monday, so I think one of either Leeds or Leicester were playing later in the day, and we were there or thereabouts. And then that moment was just incredible. I was dancing around my living room, I was screaming, I was shouting. It was phenomenal. And then I just watched every clip I could on Twitter or TikTok of people leaving Portman Road and all the chanting in the streets around the stadium. It was like an England game in a World Cup or something, where you get that kind of those games that start in the light and finish in the dark. And yeah, absolutely magical. What a moment. And yeah, we obviously had to bring it up because it's going to be memorable for forever for this generation of fans, isn't it?
Yeah, Uber ITFC, my favorite goal at ITFC ever. So dramatic, so important, and such a likable player. The noise, wow. 80 lost count of how many times he've reran that goal. The chappers running across the pitch. Again, we're going to call out the Call Me Ted poster that they've got in the programme for this one with chappers taking centre stage. That was a great moment. And you're right, Seb, it was more the fact that I think we'd been second best for a big chunk of that game and found a way to get the result, and that was it. And Yeah, brilliant, wasn't it? Great scenes, great limbs. And we loved the late drama against Southampton earlier in the season. Sam Morsey popping up and hitting in from the edge of the box.
It's happened again, as we chanted in the 95th minute, or whatever it was back in September. Yeah, 1-1 draw. Morsey's deflected 95th minute equaliser. Tyler Dibbling, more on him later with the early opener. I think he scored after about 4 or 5 minutes it was. I thought we were a bit fortunate, if I'm honest, on the day to get a point. We weren't great that day, especially in the second half of the game. Southampton had some chances. Muric made some half-decent saves. They hit the post as well when it was 1-0 to them in the first half. I think Cameron Archer it was who hit the woodwork. So I thought we were a bit fortunate that day, but all that goes straight out the window when you score a 95th deflected equaliser away from home. We all went nuts. And that could have been a bit of a sliding doors moment because, you know, that would have been their first home victory on their 4th or 5th attempt. Obviously, we would have lost potentially to a rival down there. We were still winless till the Spurs game, obviously. So perhaps a bit of a sliding doors moment in the season for both kind of teams. You know, we saw last year and the year before how relentless we were towards the end of games. And it was great to see that carried through to the Premier League.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's bring things back up to date. Currently, we talked about transfer business for Town. Some arrivals, we won't reference the managerial situation and who'd want to go in there, but some players have signed in January. Fair play to them. Can you give us a rundown on that and maybe players who have gone out too?
Yeah, done a bit of squad shifting around, haven't they? So Wellington, a left back, Brazilian left back. I think he was announced last summer, but he's joined in this window. In the last week or so, they've brought in Albert Grumbach, who's a centre mid / attacking midfielder. He's joined on loan from Rennes. They've brought a couple of kids in as well. Joachim Kaya Sander and Renato Takota have both come in. They're both 18-year-olds. They've both joined as well. And they've shifted some out. Ben Berriton Diaz, I remember thinking in the summer, he was a pretty good buy for £6-7 million pounds. He'd done all right at Sheffield United. And I remember thinking he could have probably done a job for us. He's not done well at all. He's gone and joined Harry Clark and Kiefer Moore at Sheffield United. He's gone on loan there for the second half of the season. Ronnie Edwards signed from Peterborough as like a development player. He's gone to QPR on loan, presumably with an eye on next season if they're back in the Championship, going to play some football for half a year. Maxwell Cornet was on loan from West Ham. That loan agreement has been ended and he's gone out to Genoa on loan. Tyler Dibbling has been linked with Spurs. I'm really hopeful that come 1:45 on Saturday, he might be missing from the team sheet, which would indicate a late transfer bid from Spurs. That would be nice. But he's been linked with Spurs and a couple of sides in Germany. And I think it was today or yesterday, they've had a loan bid rejected from Leeds for Cameron Archer, the striker who they signed from Villa. He went to Sheffield United last year, that weird buyback because they got relegated, ended up being flogged to Southampton. He's had a loan bid rejected as things stand at the moment.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye there. I mean, there was a doubt about Dibbling too. You'll talk about availability of players with injury, but it looks like he's going to travel. But yeah, if you want to manifest some things, that might be good for us. And yeah, Cameron Archer. I mean, there's a lot of, Berriton Diaz. I remember us talking about Ronnie Edwards is the next big thing for a while as the centre back from Peterborough, and just not worked out, has it, for him? But
he's barely played though, has he? He's 21 still, I think. So he's clearly get him half a season in his legs, and he can look to become a mainstay next year. And
Norman helping us out as well. Walker Peters rumoured to be leaving this week as well. I think we'll wait and see on that one. Wishful thinking perhaps before the weekend. Do you want to talk to us about how the manager is setting them up then, and potentially, or do you want to start with the change from Russell Martin before we see how he's setting them up? Let's kind of flip it around a bit, Seb, in terms of key stats and key measures. Do you want to give us a brief take on that, and then we'll look at how things are set up?
Yeah, so I've looked at the last 5 games of Russell Martin's reign and the last 5 games of Juric's time in charge. Now, it's never an exact science because the quality of opposition will always determine certain things. But across some of the key metrics, we know Russell Martin absolutely loved possession-based football. The possession has actually gone up since Juric took over. He's at 50% possession, whereas Martin was at 45%. The XG per game, so the amount of goals they should score per game, has dropped ever so slightly. Martin was at 1 goal per game for his last 5 in charge. Juric is at 0.88. They're shooting more than they were under Russell Martin. 7 shots per game under Martin and 10 per game under Juric. So the quality of shots has gone down because they're shooting more, but their XG has dropped. So that suggests maybe things from range or the overall quality just taking a bit of a hit. Passes per game are pretty similar. We know they were a very, very high short passing side. 427 per game for Martin. It's gone up 452 for Juric. But the big thing here, if you look at the last column, long balls per game, Martin was not a fan of kind of long ball, get the ball quickly forward, direct football. They averaged 35 per game under him, and under Jurich, they averaged 52. So they have started to go a bit more direct and get the ball quicker, get the ball forward quicker since the new manager took over.
And do you want me to put the, do you want to go Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, let's do the Monday Night Football. So we saw this last week for the, I've done the last game, Southampton against Newcastle. We saw in the last couple of weeks, you've seen the graphics all shift to the end of the screen, given it was given it was Man City and Liverpool. Things are very, very different if we look at Southampton. So this is how they lined up. It's a 3-4-1-2 is what seems to be the preferred kind of lineup. Russell Martin was a 3 at the back kind of guy, and Jurich has kept that continuity going. And the only real adjustment they make is sometimes they play 2 10s and 1 out-and-out striker through the middle. Recently, it's been 2 up top. So this is the standard, the 4-2-3-1. If I then show you where the average player positions were, they all kind of congregate here to the middle of the pitch. You can see how congested that is around the centre circle, and look at the kind of the lack of options getting forward. Kyle Walker-Peters there, their right wing-back, is the most advanced player. There seems to be a heavy focus down the left-hand side. You know, you've got Adam Armstrong, who got 20-odd goals and 15-odd assists last year in the Championship. He kind of comes wide left to kind of form a partnership with Ryan Manning down the left-hand side. Harwood Bellis steps up. James Bree's been filling in at right centre-back. He steps up, and Bednarak kind of sits in the defensive screen. So that's the average player positions. Then if I show you the heat maps where they take the most touches, it kind of morphs into a 4-3-3, but again, your 2 fullbacks, Kyle Walker-Peters and Manning, are 2 of the most advanced players, and your strikers, Paul Onuachu, number 32 here in the middle, and Adam Armstrong, are just miles off it. Now, I appreciate that this is they're one of the worst sides of Premier League history, so therefore they're not going to have large elements of control in a game, be able to push forward. I just thought it was quite striking how they've got these two strikers who, the most touches they take are in and around the centre circle, whilst you've got your 2 fullbacks pushing forward with nothing ahead of them to hit.
And maybe a threat down our left, their right there. So everyone, it appears to be very left tilted, doesn't it? With then the 2 wide players out wide on their right. So maybe a Broadhead and Davis. I think we'll talk more about that later, but that to me appears to be the threat and the option for us down that side.
And decent space in between kind of Bree, who's been playing as the right centre back, and Bednarak as the central of the 3. You can kind of see a nice bit of space between those 2 potentially to exploit as well.
Yeah, Rob's saying Leaf and Philogene. Perhaps we'll speculate on that one later on. Thank you, Seb, on the tactics side. Do you want to go through kind of key personnel? And I mean, we mentioned a couple of them already, but Tyler Dibbling, kind of having a Liam Delap type season, isn't he? A big prospect, very highly rated. And maybe in terms of contributions, maybe not as, well, certainly not as impactful as Delap, but nevertheless, potentially a big prospect here.
He is, yeah. He was, for all intents and purposes, ruled out until I saw the pre-match presser today. He picked up a bad injury. I think it was an ankle knock against Man United a few weeks ago, and was rumoured to be out for 5 to 6 weeks. And I don't know, it might be mind games, but Jurich has said today that he's good to go. He's got 2 goals so far this season. Got the opener in the game against us down at St Mary's in September. He's a proper ball carrier, wears tiny shin pads, kind of think of a progressive player, likes to get you up the pitch, Jack Grealish style with the shin pads, plays off the right, cutting inside. He's won 2 penalties for Southampton this season, so fingers crossed, everyone cross your fingers that Spurs make a bid and he is therefore withdrawn from the squad, because he's one of their main threats. Adam Armstrong, I've mentioned, last year's top scorer. I think he might be in the top scorer in the Championship, wasn't he? And all those assists, he's only got 2 so far this year. He's missed 5 big chances. His likely strike partner, if they keep the front 2, it'll be Paul Onuachu, who's got 1 goal and he's 6'7". Oh. He's absolutely massive. So Jacob Greaves and Dara O'Shea fill your boots. Matthias Fernandez plays as the 10, 1 goal, 2 assists. He's missed 6 big chances this season. Flynn Downs, obviously a name known to us. He had that great ding-dong with Morsey in the Portman Road game last season. He played in the game earlier in the season. He's been a bit of a bench option since the new manager took over. Leslie Okachukwu has come into the side. He's on loan from Chelsea. He's added some proper physicality into the central midfield, and as a result, Downs has dropped out, but he did make 17 starts in the first half of the season, so potentially he could come back in on the weekend. Kyle Walker-Peters, you've mentioned there in the graphic, he's a threat down the right-hand side, out of contract contract. So again, maybe a player they'll look to shift to get a bit of money for before the end of the window. 2 assists so far this season. And Aaron Ramsdale is back. He missed the game against Newcastle. Alex McCarthy played in nets because Gavin Bazzuno has still got that nasty ACL.
Coming back from it, isn't he?
He's out for. Yeah,
he's played for the under-21s a few times.
But Aaron Ramsdale is back. Unsurprisingly, he's a very busy goalkeeper. 4 saves per 90, which is the 3rd highest in the league. They've got some absentees. Ross Stewart, I think they signed him injured from Sunderland last season. He did come on in the St Mary's game earlier in the season. He's been out since October. He's not due back until early February, so won't make this one. Jack Stevens has been out since early December, but is back in training. Very unlikely he'll start, but if he did, he would take the James Bree role, I would imagine, in the right-sided centre-back of the 3. And Nathan Wood and Ryan Fraser are out.
Yeah, the Aaron Ramsdale situation, interesting. Excellent goalkeeper. Kind of weird the situation and how he's ended up at Southampton. Really a big coup for them actually to bring him in, I'd say. And I'd argue maybe if we had Aaron Ramsdale, we might have a few more points here and there, mightn't we?
Big money though, wasn't it, for
big
us?
Money. But fair play to Aaron Ramsdale for taking the kind of risky move, because I think he's put himself back in the shop window, hasn't he, with some of his performances this season. So we'll have to do well to get past him, and hopefully a little bit rusty perhaps. And any other things you want to point out for us, Seb? This feature has taken a break for a few weeks, but let's bring it back. We're going to change things up. We're mixing, we're shifting dial. We're changing the script. We're doing all those cliches.
Just 2 things. They are very dirty. 12 fouls per match is the 3rd highest in the league. 66 yellows is the highest, and 3 red cards is the 2nd highest. So they are a little bit dirty. And my insight, everyone, don't panic if they score first. They've taken the lead on 7 occasions so far this season, and they've gone on to lose 5 of them. And they've also only scored in both halves of a game once so far this season. So don't panic. They do have a bit of a habit of going ahead, and don't panic if they do. The odds are overwhelmingly in our favour that they will mess it up.
Well, and well, at least one of the other occasions that you talk about, 5 in the 7, they've drawn, haven't they? Because that was against us. Yeah. Referee watch. Michael Oliver has not been demoted. He's been in UEFA Champions League action this week, actually, off the back of the Miles Lewis-Skelly controversy. I mean, do we want to have that debate now? I kind of feel a little bit sorry for him, because I think it's very clumsy and very calculated. Could have been dangerous, but the fact is it wasn't, and it's been overturned. And a lot of off-field chatter, and a lot of it quite harsh about Michael Oliver as a human being and as a referee.
I can accept him making a mistake. It's not a red card for me, obviously. I can accept him making a mistake in real time. I don't know why VAR didn't get involved and help him out.
This is the problem for us, because his only other Town game so far this season, I think, was the Everton game, where he rewarded the penalty for the trip on Jack Clark, which VAR did intervene on and tell him to overturn it. So I don't know if the problem is Michael Oliver and VAR, or VAR. But either way, ignoring last week, and I think if you give him the benefit of the doubt for the Jack Clark situation, an elite official. So it's just a trouble that there's a cloud over him, or a little bit of controversy that's a little bit unnecessary. So we'll see how that goes. But maybe he owes this one after Jack Clark. Who knows? We'll find out. Again, I'm clutching at straws as always here. But thank you, Seb, for giving us the rundown on Southampton. We'll be back to talk about how Kieran McKenna will face up against Southampton and figure out a strategy for them. But firstly, let's hear from our friends at Atwell.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Thank you to Atwells, and thank you to One Stop Badges. Once again, I'm not organised enough to have something, or a One Stop badge, Blue Monday badge. There's Seb doing all the hard work as per usual. If you find one of the Blue Monday pod team, Dave and I think Dave might be running out, he claims. Joe as well. We will give you a Blue Monday limited edition badge. Michael, I'm keeping one for you when you make the trip over from Australia. I feel like that's a prize is it in itself to make all that long journey. We'll give you a Blue Monday badge for your travels. But yeah, do come and find us, and do support One Stop Badges as well. 10% promo in the description, both on the YouTube and the podcast. We'll talk about Brett Vale shortly too, and our FPL feature. Telegram transfer chat will be slammed shut on Tuesday morning, but if you want to get your free trial and enjoy the last few hours of that, then feel free. Link on our website, Blue Monday, itfc.co.uk. And as always, Flagship show back Sunday night live, 8 p.m. Ben, Dave, Joe, talking about Southampton after the fact. And ahead of the game, do check out the Rewind show, as Seb mentioned. And we'll put the prediction show with Ben and Mikey up tomorrow, which is Friday. And finally, from tomorrow, I think, maybe on the 31st, free shipping in our merch store. So why not get yourself some Blue Monday flip-flops? We've recently added ahead of the summer. So do avail yourself of that. Blue Monday, itfc.co.uk. So, Seb, how the hell do we approach this one? I kind of feel like there are some really critical question marks in really critical areas of the spine of the team that we haven't really had for a year or so, maybe even 2 years. It was very stable, very solid, but I'd argue there's question marks over at least 4 positions, including in goal and including in centre mid. I'm going to say it if no one else is. So why don't we start from the back to the front, and you tell me what you think.
Well, first off, I think this will look a lot more like the 4-2-3-1 that we've seen, before we kind of tightened up with the Arsenal game, wasn't it? I know the personnel might not necessarily change, but I think the way they play perhaps will do. Wes Burns with that horrible injury last weekend, still waiting to hear on him, sending all our love and our best wishes to him. Obviously, he won't be involved. So I think that right-hand side will become much more of an attacking threat rather than kind of doing the defensive work that Burns and Ben Johnson do when they play in that role. So I'm expecting more of a 4-2-3-1. I would keep Christian Walton in goal, but if it was Muric, I'd have absolutely no concern with that whatsoever. I'd play Tuanzebe again. I was impressed with him coming back against, was it City and Liverpool? We got some decent minutes. So he's my right back. I forgot about that. Yeah, good point. O'Shea and Greaves are my centre halves. Leif Davis on the left. I would then play Calvin Effin Phillips again alongside Jens Kajust. Sorry, I'm going to put Morsey on the bench. He wasn't really at it last week against Liverpool. I understand it's much weaker opposition, and maybe therefore the captain should be in the middle of the pitch to drive the standards. I just think in the last few games he's been found out a little bit recently with the extra touch he's sometimes having to take. So for me, if Kajust is good, I'd have him alongside Phillips. And then it becomes the kind of the conundrum behind Liam Delap. So I would play Enciso in the number 10. I think we saw enough from him against Liverpool. We got the assist with the in-swinging corner. I love the
karate kick,
the arrogance to take it off Calvin Phillips and say, no, I'm going to take this one, swing it straight in. The karate kick brings a little bit of combativeness. Probably lucky that he's available for this weekend, in all honesty, given how high that boot was. But yeah, I'd have him in the number 10. You could toss a coin, either Hutchinson or Philogene in the wide right role. I just think Amari hasn't looked quite at it since he came back in. We were expecting him to be out for longer, but he came back in against Brighton, didn't he? And he hasn't quite, for me, looked at it since then. So if he needs a rest, then I'd play Philogene. And I would play Broadhead down the left. Again, at Anfield, he looked really good coming on. And I think we need that. Yeah, I agree with Streaky there. Broadhead start. He's looked really good. A lot of people making him man of the match at Anfield, which is obviously crazy. But I think the way he's able to get us up the pitch, I thought he might struggle at the start of the season in terms of the league's physicality, but he's so quick with his feet and his ability to get you forward, I think, are crucial attributes at this level. So I'd have him in my number left role. So I'd have Amari or Philogene, toss a coin, hold a gun to my head, Philogene wide right, Enciso in the 10, Broadhead wide left behind Delap. That's what I would go for.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. There's some support for you in the chat for that. Norman talking about Delap and Enciso and the dark arts that they might deploy. I don't think I disagree with anything. I would not be surprised if Muric comes back in, but I think he'll go with Walton. I think they'll stick with Walton. I'm not sure that's the right decision personally.
Do you blame Walton for any of the goals last weekend?
Not massively, but the trouble is I don't think he's making enough saves anymore. And every time
he had this. Do you remember in the League One season? He had about 2 months where he just didn't save any shots. Do you remember everything that opposition had on target would go in? It's kind of a weird repeat of that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, the second goal, I think there's a world where he could just go out and smother Salah on the touchline and concede a corner. The first goal, I think, is just brilliantly hit, isn't it, by Szoboszlai? You can't, it's right in the corner. Maybe another keeper saves it, but I don't think it's. I think that's a bit harsh. And the third goal's not great, is it? Soft wrists, but mitigating circumstances. I would bring in Muric. I think McKenna will go for Walton. I think your back line is fine. I agree with your central midfield pairing as well. If we there's a lot of, it does feel like a watershed moment in the season where there's a lot of big players from the class of 22, 23, 24 who are now having to make really hard, but I think objectively the right calls to take them out of the firing line and bring in other players. If Kayusta's fit, he's got to play. And I think Phillips would benefit from run of games too. So I think I agree with that. I think McKenna trusts Amari, which is why I think he'll be on the right-hand side rather than Philogene. I do also think there's a role maybe for Enciso off the bench rather than as a starter. I like that only because of the symmetry with Sarmiento's cameo. And also Broadhead came off the bench against Southampton in that 3-2. So it could be, well, we're going to run out of options, aren't we?
I was going to say, who would you have as a 10 then? You've got Hutchinson on the right. Who would you have as the 10?
Yeah, exactly right. So I mean, you could, you're going to have to play one of those two, I think, anyway. So I like your team. I think it might end up being Amari in the 10 rather than Enciso, and then Enciso comes off the bench. And yeah, Delap, Hurst really should have done better with that header, but I don't think he's in starting territory yet. And obviously, it'd be great for Liam Delap to get some support, wouldn't he? And this is a game where we should be really going for it.
And that's why I like Enciso, because he'll naturally give you that, almost a bit like Chaplin in the kind of the last couple of years. He's almost like a secondary striker, isn't he? You know, he's got that kind of nous and that predatory instinct to get himself forward, and I do like that about him.
M Simpson 54. What do you guys think to starting Hurst and then Delap at halftime as an impact? I mean, it's quite. The trouble is, you can't. Liam Delap's our form player. I know he's not scored from open play in a while, and Man City and Liverpool not the greatest days, but it's different opposition, isn't it?
Yeah, and Hurst has looked really good recently. I think his ability to hold the ball up, Hurst, is underrated and something that we've really missed in recent weeks. My only concern with Delap is he has those momentary. First off, he can get very isolated, which isn't his fault, obviously. And I think when that happens, he gets more and more frustrated. That's when we see the silly, petulant kind of yellow cards here and there. But McKenna will absolutely start him, and he'll run himself into the ground for 65, 70 minutes. And then we can bring on Hurst, who hopefully at that point, if we're ahead in the game, can hold the ball up and bring others into play and chase the channels and do that kind of that stuff that we've certainly missed for the last few weeks. But I'd be certainly starting obviously Delap, and he will give, as we know, his all. And it'll be a good battle as well, because I think Harwood Bellis is 6'2", Bednarak I think is 6'2" or 6'3", so he'll have a nice kind of fun physical battle up against him and get the crowd going at some point. Give it a smash into Bednarak in the first 30 seconds of the game, and that'll get everyone up for it.
Playing devil's advocate just on the central midfield pairing, Morsey has struggled, it seems. Watching some of the goals back, he's kind of arriving on the scene a little bit late in the day, isn't he? But is there something to be said for the quality of opposition that he's been up against, and actually Southampton more fit, and therefore maybe a game where he can be more effective, said perhaps?
Yeah, it's harsh for me to sit here and judge him after, Gundogan, Kovacic and De Bruyne 2 weeks ago, last week, McAllister, Gravenberch and Slobozai. He's going up against absolute world-class talents. I just think it's the pace of the game, I think, isn't it, that he's struggling with. It's the extra touch he sometimes needs to take, the move that we've seen for so many seasons, or the last 3-4 seasons, where he drops a shoulder, can kind of then take the ball past a man and look to drive us up the pitch. That at the moment isn't there because of the quality of opposition that he's facing. Where I think with Kayush, you do get that. And Kelvin Phillips is an incredibly kind of experienced Premier League player who we're paying decent money for. And I actually thought he was probably one of our better players at Anfield last weekend. He copped a bit of grief on socials afterwards, on Twitter and in our Telegram group, but I thought he was one of the better ones. And I just think we need to give him a run in the team now to see what he can really do. And those two, in terms of their physicality, their experience, and their better control of the ball in tight positions, makes me think we need to go for those two for not necessarily all the rest of the season, but if they're both fit, I think we might see a gradual kind of slide to those two being the first choice.
Rodders chucking in Ben Godfrey for consideration?
You could do, yeah. I mean, he's not really featured as he started the Bristol Rovers game, started the City game, and got destroyed. But that was Man City doing what Man City do. I think Tuanzebe, however, he's much more up to speed with how we play. He's an excellent one-on-one defender. And if who plays down their left, Manning will be their left wing back unless Wellington potentially comes in. So I would just, given he's been here a lot longer, if he's fit enough and good enough to go, I'd just play Tuanzebe because it's a part of the pitch you don't really then have to worry about, if that makes sense.
Fair dues, fair dues. The only other thought, before I forget on Morsey, looking at your proposed lineup there, where's the leadership? Who's setting the levels in that team?
O'Shea would be my captain. I think he's done really well since coming in. So O'Shea would be my captain. And then you're going to have to rely on somebody in the middle of the pitch. Now, Kiyust and Phillips aren't overly talkative, are they? And kind of driving things on, I don't think, in that respect. So for me, it would be O'Shea and potentially Greaves really kind of, bellowing out the instructions from the back and driving things there.
Yeah, I think Morsey brings something in that respect, but the question is whether you accept that maybe he's not as going to be as swift as Kiyust or Phillips might be. So it's a difficult one.
We know Kiyust can't play, can we, more than 65, 70 minutes. So at that point, if you're ahead, what a lift that would be to then bring on Sam Morsey to kind of, get you over the line.
Yeah, cool. We will come back at the end to do predictions. So fry those in the think walk for now. Will give us your scores. I'm not sure I want to give a score this week, but if someone forces me to do it, then I'll have to, won't I? But let's business as usual resumed on the FPL. Seb, let me tell you, Brett Vale Golf Club have frozen their membership fees at 2024 prices. And by way of welcoming folk to the club, if they join now, their membership that runs all the way through to the 31st of March 2026. Joining today, you get 50 months of membership at a lovely golf club in Constable Country. Lots of payment options, 10-minute drive from Cockdock, well-stocked bar, kitchen, and provides exceptional golf all year round. Call in at the pro shop, give them a call. Everything you need, brettvale.golf.co.uk. And as an additional bonus, if you quote Blue Monday when you join, they'll credit your membership card with £25 to be used in the bar or the pro shop. So thank you, Brett Vale, for your support.
Change that? If they quote Rich's crap at FPL, can they get the same £25 preloaded onto a card?
Don't forget, he presses the buttons.
Brilliant.
Let's have a quick nose at the results. It wasn't another. I'm trying to remember who did the damage for you. I think you had Gvardiol, didn't you? And Isak still scoring goals. When will that end? I just don't get that. But hey ho, Seb wins the week by 19 points. Is that? And is opened up a greater than 200 point lead. Still fun though, isn't it, to talk about it? Any changes this week for you?
Yes, I have. I'm using my triple captain. Liverpool have 2 games, so I've triple captained Mo Salah. They're away at Bournemouth, and then it's the Merseyside derby. Although you have to wait, don't you? The FA Cup is in between the two, so it's a really long game week, this one that's upcoming. And I've brought in Ndiaye as well, who's playing as a number 10 under David Moyes. I think he's got a couple of goals in the last couple of weeks because it's a 2-week game week for Everton as well. They've got Leicester at home and then the Merseyside derby. So I've brought him in as well. And as always, my ITFC representation is Amari Hutchinson, who about 10 minutes ago I said probably wouldn't play. And Liam Delap up front. So that's my big change. The triple captain card has been played.
Boom. Yeah, fair play. I hadn't thought about that. I have brought in Enciso, but he's straight into the bench. So I've replaced him, I think, with Smodic, who's been injured and not been involved. Other than that, Gakpo, my captain, should have triple captain.
Did you just forget, did you?
Just forgot. And that's why you're leading the way, isn't it? So yeah, but yeah, I mean it's a good enough team on paper. But you got Aina, and then he became crap, didn't he? And Forrest let in 5, so you've cursed him. So yeah, what will be. But I'm trusting Davis and Delap. But I think you are too. So Anthony Gordon, help me out here, mate. Bloody hell, help me out. Good. I won't play the music again, even though it's very catchy and very lovely. But thank you again, Brett Vale. And I see the chat, Streaky. I can ban people remotely, Seb, but I'm not going to do that, Streaky, because I'm a bigger man. I'm not. Norman, What's going to be on the T-shirt?
I've started planning this
absolute
week.
disgrace.
There are certain people who are involved in this. I've started planning it, so watch this space.
Whatever it is, can you make sure that it's a good quality design? Don't half-ass it. If you need some help,
if I can do it, it'll be good. I'm just not sure I can.
I'd rather make my punishment T-shirt look good than it be done by you and Mullet, with crayons or whatever. So
wow,
we'll have a look. Right, chat. Get your thoughts in for predictions. Any other town personnel thoughts for the weekend? Southampton thoughts? Any questions for Seb? You've got 5 minutes before we say goodbye. I did see something in the chat about McKenna. I'm not sure I buy that. But I think the chat has gone into bat for the manager. But trust the manager. Yeah.
No one was saying he's in trouble or anything.
Under pressure, I think someone said, but I'm not sure that's a consensus view.
We could be in Southampton's position now and he wouldn't be under pressure.
Yeah,
not from me anyway.
I mention it because I can see the chat and people are wading in, and I think the chat has got it right. I'm not sure that kind of noise has come from anyone who's been around, certainly the last 3 years. It might be that maybe people who are a bit more of a recency bias on it, but certainly no pressure from me and Seb and a good chunk of the chat. Do we want to do this, Seb? I mean, do we want to do predictions? So I have to?
Yeah. You have to. It's tradition. We have to do it.
You go first.
So they needed 3 goals in the last 3 games to Newcastle, Forest, and somebody else. And then they lost 5-0 the time out before that against Brentford. So I think 3-1 is going to repeat itself. I think they might go ahead. They do have a bit of a habit of scoring first. So maybe they'll go ahead, but I think we are going to win 3-1.
Okay. So does the chat by the look of it too.
I swear to God, if you predict a loss or even a draw, I might not do this show ever again.
What if I'm right? I'll go for a 2-1 home win. There you go.
Well done. Good.
And I will not enjoy it, I suspect, until
I think it might be a bit of a nervy. Yeah, it might be a bit of a nervy one.
And I would. What would I love? Who would I love to? I'd love Delap to score from open play. I think that would be big. Do you know what? I want Calvin Phillips to score again, like Bristol Rovers.
I think George Hurst might score.
There you go. Well, anyone else?
Nurich
to score.
Just naming people at this point.
Yeah. Good. Let's see what the chat has to say. Rodders 3-1. Come on, Towden. Colin also gone for the 3-1. Rob, Seb using cheat. Maybe it's time we did an audit. Maybe I hadn't thought about that, Rob. Thank you for.
I just know more about football than he does.
Charlie, 2-0. We've got a lot of 2-goal margin predictions here. I mean, Graham stating it. We've got to say, if we can't beat Southampton, we are relegated. I think it's fair enough, isn't it? 3-1 says Streaky. Brody with the third. I love the working prediction. Michael, God bless you. Prediction, just effing win Town. I'm going to star that one, and we'll say that's the last thing we say. 3-2 says Chew Train. Seabass is going for a nervy 1-0. I can feel that. Rob 3-1. Delap, O'Shea, then Jack Clark. Well, Rob, I think I would love that as well. Jack Clark off the bench, finally getting his, he's already scored, but boost his confidence. Irvin's here, 5-1. Love that. 83-1. Aid Cooper 1-0. That's fine. Sadly, he says 1-0. Opinions, variety of opinions, all welcome here. David Bradley, 5-2. Delap hat-trick. Love it. 2-1 for Trevor, 3-1 for Rob. Colin, I love Kieran McKenna. So do I, Colin. There you go. I'm just checking any others. Norman, I think transfer. I'll put this to you, so I won't answer this. Right winger and striker before Monday. I assume business-wise.
I don't think we'll get both. I'd be quite surprised. There's just a complete dearth of strikers out there, isn't there? There's very little that fit the mold that's going to be available. I think we'll get another attacking option, but if it's a striker, I'm not entirely sure because we would link with Latte Lath end of last window. Sounds like he's been going places for most of this window, but for whatever reason, we've clearly not felt the need to go in for him. Do you maybe panic a little bit and go and throw 20 million quid? It sounds crazy. Throw 20 million quid and maybe get it wrong. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure if we do any business, then Joe and Craig will be here on Monday evening to wrap it all up. I think we'll get somebody in, but I'm not so sure it'll be a striker. And also the right wing role is really difficult as well because it's such a a crucial role in our team, isn't it? You know, we've seen Wes Burns play that role for the last 4 years, I think it is now, and it's not something you can just go out and just go and get like a Ben Doak, like a young player, to come in and expect them to be able to pick up the needs of that role. The Ogbene injury, if he's out for the season, that's really hurt us as well. So you do have to be a bit careful with what you go and get.
Yeah. Yeah. Odds on a
Do
red
you think
card.
we'll get anybody, or
I don't care.
That's the spirit.
I don't care. What do we need? We need a strike. We need a 9, don't we? I think that should be our priority. The good thing is we brought in flexibility with the likes of Philogene, even in CISO. Amari can play across the roles. Smodic can play across the roles. Broadhead can do it to an extent. So I kind of feel that flexibility is there. Quickly, odds on a red card.
They are very dirty. Like I said, 3 red cards for them this season is the highest in the league, and they're top for fouls and second or third for yellow. So they are dirty, yeah.
Late September, our set pieces actually improved during this game.
We scored from a set piece last one, yeah, and CISO whipped it in swinging right-footed, and Greaves got on the end of it. So
do it again.
Yeah, just do that again. Yeah,
do that again.
There you go. If you're watching analysis team,
Mark Hudson, just do that again. A says, and CISO's quarters could be huge. Right, I'm going to put Michael's comment back up on the screen. I'm going to say thank you if you made it all the way through. If you were from minute 0 through to minute 59, 55, we appreciate you. We support you. Thank you so much for your insight in the chat. Hopefully, we've turned frowns upside down. We've dissipated some of the nerves. Big game on Saturday, imperative that we're victorious. Seb, thank you as always for your insights, your research, giving us the inside track. Feel free to repurpose that for all of your needs in the ground. Make yourself look smart in front of all your mates. And the guys will be back Sunday flagship show live 8 p.m. to talk about the game after the fact. Please do give us a thumbs up on YouTube. We appreciate that. It really helps us with algorithmic stuff that I can't really understand, but I like. 5-star rating as well. You could just swipe 5 stars on your podcast app of choice. That makes a big difference to us. Well, and subscribe. Get your Blue Monday fill a few days a week. Subscribe, and it just happens like magic. Seb, I signed off last week, so I will let you have the final say.
I'll keep it short and sweet. To quote the great Michael Warner, just effing win town. Come on, you Blues.
No. Let's do it properly. I pressed the wrong button.
Brilliant.
Press the wrong button. Do it properly. Where's Michael's chat? I'm putting it back up. There you go. Let's not. We can't end the podcast like that. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Can I swear, or will you shout at me again like last week?
Don't swear.
What the rules are.
Don't swear.
Right.
I'm only human. I'm Michael Oliver. I'm only human.
Right. To quote the great Michael Warner, just effing win town. Come on, you Blues.